Today I'm breaking down the best US cities to live in if you travel often based on airport access, number of non-stop international flights, airline hubs, cost of living, and travel perks and lifestyle. The first city on the list is Atlanta because it is home to the busiest airport in the world, and while navigating might feel like cruel and unusual punishment, it is a Delta hub, so if you have any of the Delta SkyMiles credit cards, you get an extra 15% off award flights, so it's like you're never paying full price for flights. A hub is one of an airline's main operating bases, and Delta has 9 of these hubs across the US in Boston, Atlanta, Detroit, Los Angeles, JFK, LaGuardia, Salt Lake City, Seattle, and Minneapolis. At these hubs, you're supposed to be able to find better availability and pricing and more non-stop flights. Atlanta is a Delta hub, Chicago is a United hub, Dallas is an American hub. Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport also has 70 plus international non-stop destinations, which if you compare that to neighboring cities like Charlotte, North Carolina, or Greensville, South Carolina, there's almost always going to be a layover. Atlanta is obviously a major city, but it is one of the most affordable major cities that you can live in. I looked it up and found plenty of apartments in the $1,200 to $2,000 range within 30-minute drive to the airport. And if you compare that to other major cities like Boston, you can live within a 30-minute drive to the airport and easily be paying $2,500 to $3,000 in rent at minimum. And that's why Boston didn't make it on the list, but we're going to talk about Boston later. The cost of living in Atlanta is 4% below the national average and 7% below the state average. Less you have to spend on monthly expenses, the more you can obviously spend on travel, so the cost of living is really important, even though it doesn't just include rent. Because some states you do have to pay more in rent, but groceries are a lot cheaper, and depending on how many people you live with and are responsible for, that's worth paying attention to. A con of living in Atlanta is the traffic. The traffic might be one of the biggest cons. Another con for some people is their public transportation system isn't as extensive or well connected as cities like Boston or New York, so you will almost always need a car to get around for daily activities or errands. The rent in Boston is expensive, but I can get to the airport completely for free. It's not supposed to be free, but nobody scans their phone when they get on the train, so it's free. Another con can be the crime rate. Just like in any city, the crime is worse in some areas compared to others, and depending on where you're moving from, this can be difficult to adjust to. The second city on the list is Dallas, Texas. Dallas has 3 airports, which are Dallas-Fort Worth, Dallas-Love Field, and Addison Airport. Dallas-Fort Worth is the larger international airport of the 3, and it's actually the second busiest airport in the United States. Dallas-Love Field is smaller and closer to the city center, and Addison Airport is a general aviation airport. Dallas is also American Airlines' largest hub. If you have any of the popular travel credit cards by Chase, Amex, or Capital One, you will not be able to transfer your points over to American Airlines. However, American Airlines does have their own travel credit cards to make it easier for you to save money on travel and to earn points. And as of 2 days ago, Citi just announced American Airlines as a transfer partner, so that will be exciting for American Airlines loyalists. Texas is a no income tax state, and there are only a total of 8 of these states in the United States. However, Texas does rely on higher property taxes and sales tax to generate revenue. Texas has a statewide sales tax of 6.25%, and local jurisdictions are actually able to impose additional taxes of up to 2% for a maximum combined total of 8.25%. I'm going to use Boston as an example again here because there's just nowhere in the world that's more expensive than Boston. But Boston is an income tax state, and they have a statewide sales tax of 6.25%. So in Boston, you have income taxes, and you also have that 6.25%. In Texas, you have no income taxes, and you have 6.25%. Take your pick. At Dallas-Fort Worth, you can choose between 193 domestic and 67 international non-stop flights, which is perfect for frequent travelers. The cost of living in Dallas is 7% higher than the state average and 2% higher than the national average, which means it is more expensive than Atlanta. However, I was still able to find multiple apartments within the $800 to $1,400 range within a 25-minute drive to the airport. Google will tell you that Dallas has a good transportation system, but the people on Reddit seem to have a different story. It doesn't appear that Dallas actually has an extensive and well-connected transit system. I have never been to Dallas, so I can't give you my personal opinion, but maybe somebody in the comments will be willing to share. It does appear that you will need a car to get by in Dallas. Some pros of living in Dallas include short winters, growing economy, and job opportunities. You get more space for your money if you wanted to buy a house. Cons are that everything is spread out, which means longer commutes. It's not very walkable, and summers are brutal. The third city on the list is Seattle, Washington. It is the home base for Alaska Airlines and a secondary hub for Delta. You will find lots of direct flights to Asia, Canada, and Europe. Delta actually recently announced that they are investing in Seattle Airport and launching new non-stop service from Seattle Tacoma Airport to Rome and Barcelona, in addition to 2 new premier lounges at the same airport. They are adding a luxurious Delta One lounge and a sophisticated Delta Sky Club. Seattle Tacoma Airport offers 98 domestic and 37 international non-stop destinations. Seattle's cost of living is 46% higher than the national average, and housing expenses are 109% higher. You can expect to pay about $3,500 for a 2-bedroom apartment, but guess what? In Boston, you can expect to pay $3,500 for a 400 square foot studio. Take your pick. I did do a little research and found apartments in the $1,300 to $2,000 range within a 15-minute drive from the airport. Pros of living in Seattle are surrounded by water, mountains, forests, so if you like to hike, ski, or kayak, this is the perfect place for you. There's a strong job market in tech and healthcare. It's home to Amazon, Boeing, Microsoft, and Expedia, and there's no state income tax. Some cons to living in Seattle is that there are long, gloomy winters. There's also something called the Seattle freeze, which just refers to how people are not really open to making genuine friendships. People there are a little bit more closed off, and it's not as social as somewhere like Miami or New York. Seattle also sits on several fault lines and has the potential for a major earthquake, although it is rare. They are making steps to improve their public transit system, but again, it's nowhere as extensive as New York or Boston. There are other cities I could have put on this list, such as Boston or New York, but considering the cost of living, I didn't include them. However, I can make a separate video for cities like that and also some other cities that just didn't make it into today's video. So if you guys want a part 2 of other cities that you could possibly live in as a frequent traveler, just let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.